Hola students, welcome to another video. This video will be based on an aspect of paper 2. As you know, these are the 4 sections which are included in the paper 2 examination: situations, letter writing, contextual dialogues, and finally a reading comprehension. Para este video, for this video, our focus will be on letter writing. These are some tips that are very important for you to note for the letter writing aspect of the examination. I'm going to give you a few minutes just to read them. I will also send this photo in our WhatsApp group. You will be presented with an outline looking just like this one for the letter writing section of the paper 2 examination. Before going ahead and writing your letter, it is very important that you read through this guideline or outline that will be presented on the paper. So if you look carefully, you'd see that this letter prompt, it says that your Spanish friend spent time in your country and has returned home. He or she left before a big concert was held. Write the letter to him or her about the concert, in which you include the following details, and then it has the cues of the different things that you should include in the body of the letter. So you should include when it was held, who you went with, specific details about the performances, something interesting that happened, and plans you will make for his or her next visit. This picture ideally outlines what should be included in each of the paragraphs in your letter. So I'm just going to give you a few moments again to read through what I have here on the screen. These are the parts of the letter that you should include. So now let us focus on each part of the letter. Vamos a comenzar con lugar y fecha, address and date. Let's begin with that. So the address and the date, it should be in the same line. The address, you should write it first, and then you're going to put a comma. So for example, I have there Trelawney, and then I have a comma, right? Now the date, it should be written in this format. You're going to put the day, then you're going to put de followed by the month, then you put de followed by the year. All right, so for example, if it's June 28, 2021, then you would put 28 de junio de 2021. All right, so therefore the address and the date in the letter should look like this, what I have on the screen. And it should be at the top right-hand section. Remember, they should be in the same line. So this is how the letter would look so far with your address and your date. En segundo lugar, secondly, tenemos el saludo, the greeting, right? So this tells us who we're writing the letter to. So in English, that would be dear. So dear Pam, dear Bobby, etc. Now in Spanish, dear can either be querido or querida. Now we use querido when you're writing the letter to a male. For example, querido Pablo. And if you're writing the letter to a female, then you would use querida. Now this is found on the left-hand side, and it is followed by a comma. So let us say that we are writing this letter to Pedro. Now what would we use? Would it be querido or querida? Excelente. We would use querido because Pedro is a boy. And I'm sure that everybody selected the correct one. Entonces, therefore, this is how our letter would look so far with our address and date as well as our greeting. So now that we have our address, our date, and our greeting, let's now go to the body of the letter, el cuerpo. Now, no matter what it is that you get to write about in the letter, in the examination, you can begin it with any of these 2 phrases that you're seeing on the screen. So you can either say, hola, ¿cómo estás? Espero que estés bien. Or you can say, hola, ¿qué tal? Espero que todo vaya bien contigo. So either of those 2 could work. And then after that, you're going to put either estoy escribiendo para decirte sobre, and you put what you're writing about, or te escribo para decirte sobre, and then you put what you are writing about. So begin with any of the 2 phrases at the top, and then you use any of the 2 that I have there below. So let's use one of the phrases to begin our letter. So remember, you can use any of the phrases that you are comfortable with using. So this is how our letter would look so far. Next up, we would put why it is that we're writing the letter, right? So remember that this letter should be about the concert. So what would we write on this line? Excelente, we would write el concierto, and that is concert. Entonces, estudiantes, this is how our letter would look so far. Now, in order to complete the letter, we must respond to the different cues that are presented or highlighted. Now, each of the cues, your responses to each of the cues, they should be included in a different paragraph. So the first thing that you should include in this letter is when was the concert held, who you went with, and how you went. So that's one paragraph. Paragraph 2, specific details about the performances at the concert. Paragraph 3, something interesting that happened at the concert. Y finalmente, paragraph 4, plans you will make for his or her next visit. So let's begin with the first cue. So we need to state when it was held, who you went with, and how you went to the concert. So I have a sample answer right there. So here I have that the concert was last Friday. I went with my mother and sister and I traveled by car. Now the next thing that you should include, the second cue, which will be in our next paragraph, is, or rather specific details about the performances at the concert. For this section, you could give the name of the different artists who perform, and you could probably give the name of the song and talk about the performances, were they fun, etc. Now in the next paragraph, you should include something interesting that happened at the concert, right? So you could say that the artist called you on the stage, you met the artist, something of the sort. I have an example there. In my example, I have that I went to the bathroom and I ended up meeting Shakira and we took a selfie together, all right? But your interesting thing that happened at the concert could be anything at all. It's up to you. The final thing that you should include is a plan or the plans that you will make for his or her next visit. So here you could mention when you want the person to visit again, what are some of the things that you're going to do when the person visits, etc. It is up to you. Now that we have completed the body of the letter, we're now going to focus on the closure. On the screen, we have some examples of some closures that we can use to end the letter. Now, you have to be very careful and to ensure that you use the most appropriate closure for the letter. For example, if it says that you should write the letter to your grandmother, you wouldn't end it with su amigo, meaning your friend, right? So just be careful with which closure you use. So ahora let us add a closure to our letter. So I have added the closure su amigo because remember we are writing the letter to your pen pal. Now the final thing is firma, and this is the name of the person who wrote the letter or the name of the sender, and this comes directly below the closing. Entonces, como por ejemplo, for example, Bob is the one who wrote this letter, right? So right below the closure we would write Bob. So it would look just as how I have it here. Now, este es el fin. This is the end of the lesson, but for your task or your activity, I want for you to write a letter based on the outline that was shown earlier. I'm way too good at goodbye. I'm way too good at